Uh, Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be over here. I'm the founder of Snaptrude, and we're building what we call it as, say, a Google Docs for the entire building information modeling or design to construction workflows. We have always seen that building information modeling tools or modeling tools generally have been built or dominated by a few companies, which were built largely in the 90s. So for me personally, I started as a geometry researcher, computer graphics background, started working with architects, started building plugins to Revit, SketchUp, and various other tools, and realized that like all of these plugins which I'm building because people are working in very siloed environments. There's so many workflow issues, and which we are trying to solve them using bandages. What if these bandages never existed? What if the entire workflows were created from a user's perspective with a modern user experience in mind? And that's what we started doing. So generally, one observation which I found was most of the tools were built in the 90s, and they've dragged along that concept till today, even though we are in 2020s. Every other industry has moved beyond what was built in the 90s. Like you can see modern user experiences, cloud, web, has really taken over every other industry except for our industry. And people have been vocal about it. They've written open letters to Autodesk and various other companies and complaining about these issues. And that's why we need to develop plugins to put bandages to this system. And like if you look at it generally, collaboration, which is so important in an industry like construction, where you have so many stakeholders, it's so much broken. And the best tools that today we can use predominantly have been like tools like Bluebeam or Construction Cloud. And like even just the sheer amount of usage of Bluebeam shows that users really want to collaborate, but there's nothing great about any of the tools to enable them. And interoperability is something which I don't want to dwell much deeper into it, but like when a Revit 2021 file cannot open in Revit 2020, how do you expect it to work with a SketchUp or any other software? So like we are in a mess of a situation where you're just trying to make the process work instead of making the design work, which should be the priority of the system. And that's where we solve this exact issue. What if you could collaborate literally on a web browser with a modern user experience on the cloud and have that entire system automated in nature, so you're not just doing all the manual modeling tasks, but focusing on the design. And over all of this collaboration, we felt feedback loops are extremely important. So every time you do a design change, say you're doing a multifamily residence, and you want to make one of the bedrooms slightly larger, immediately would want to know whether you're compliant to the local regulations or not. What's the impact on the budget? Because like the developer will not want to go beyond certain buffer which he has put in, whether the climate ecosystem is going to support this design change or not. All of these design decisions are so critical, but today it takes weeks to generate the data points, and most of the time people don't even do it for mid-market segments because it's who's going to do that, who's going to pay for it. What if you could actually build in that feedback loop as you're designing? You just change one of the bedrooms, immediately you know it's going to cost $20,000 extra. It's going to have this much impact on climate. So you're actually collaborating and taking these decisions faster. And it not just happens that you have to do the design from scratch, you can interoperate with any of the tools, something which the industry has been plaguing since the last, I don't know, like 30, 40 years. So you have a Revit file, you have a SketchUp file, you have a Rhino file, click a button, import it into Snaptrude, and use it to start collaborating with any of your teammates or your external consultants, or even a customer for that matter, who can provide valuable feedback. So to make the feedback loops much shorter. And this is a experience which I'm showing where a Revit file, you can just create a section box view, hide or show some elements which you want, and just click of a button, bring it into Snaptrude. And once you've been able to bring it within Snaptrude, it's totally editable. So you can invite your colleagues in, exactly like Google Docs, like external consultants, internal team members, start editing it. You can see all of their cursors so that they can point out to the right feedback which you need. And while you're collaborating, you can generate valuable information, which I was talking about, which is like your costing modules, your schedules, your area programs, everything. So here, we're just like adding a few doors, windows, modifying the parameters of one of the doors over there. And whenever you're ready, whenever you want to go to, say, documentation, click a button, and you can export it back to Revit. So I come over here, reconcile all the changes, select which project it was, and everything is updated over here. So you can see the furniture is updated, the door family is updated, parameters are updated. So collaboration is something which is totally solved with this interoperability. This leads to a single source of truth across your entire ecosystem, which the industry has not been able to do, minimizing every kind of error because everybody's on the same page, and then in-model communication, both real-time, synchronous communication, as well as asynchronous communication, which you want it to happen. And on top of all of that, which I was not able to show the videos, you can actually see the change logs over a period of time, how the design has evolved in terms of these parameters. So in the last 3 months, what's the variation in the cost with all the design changes? And you can also layer in an enterprise sign-off system, because you don't want a junior architect to just come in and do a $1 million change into the project. So you need to have a permissioning system where you need approval from the principal architect or the main BIM manager, and automatically keep generating remotes as you're progressing further. And also it generates very detailed bill of quantities, exportable to an Excel, or you can keep it inside the platform itself, itemize it, you can tag them. It's in a live environment, so you can actually do back and forth. And it includes subtraction. So all the clashes are resolved while the BOQ is getting calculated. And we do it for the customer as well. So if you are working with a certain contractor and they need certain kind of logic ingrained into the BOQ, we actually accommodate that request as well. And now we have got global customers who are seeing greater than 80% improvement in their productivity. So we have got a client which is into commercial interiors, which used to take about 3 days for them to submit their first initial concept design proposal, and they're able to do it in 90 minutes flat today. And that kind of a time saving is reinvested back in iterating, designing better projects, making them more efficient, and polishing those things off. So we are just not here to replace existing tools which were built in the last 40 years, but genuinely, how can you help the industry design better buildings, efficient buildings, sustainable buildings faster through this environment? Thank you so much. So we are displaying at the booth over here in Lounge 8. If you need a detailed demo or just want to come and play around with the product, you can just hop in. And just for today, we are doing a collaborative design where everybody is contributing one room to a mansion. And at the end of the day, we're going to present what all of us today have designed together as an NFT. Thank you so much.